Alright guys, I feel like I've put out this video before. I definitely did, in regards to Madden 19, but it's still not there, so I feel like I have to follow up to stay current with still the top 5 things on my list that are not in franchise mode. And from these, 5 things, there's multiple things that could be added to the game once these things are in the game. And again, this is just my top 5. It might not be your top 5, and that's the beauty of everyone's opinions and everyone's preference, is we're not all going to think the same thing. So this is just my top 5. But the reason why I'm showing you the footage that you're seeing here, this is everything that we know so far in regards to QB1 and face of the franchise. This is everything that we know so far, and I really want you to focus on this, because this is the reason why the things that I'm going to mention are not in franchise mode. In case you guys don't know, just to give you a little backstory, listen, with me being fortunate enough to have the relationship with EA that I have, being a game changer, since Madden 13, so we go all the way back to 2012, it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift because you have that opportunity to talk to the devs and get to know people and, meet some of the senior staff and things of that nature. But the curse is you start learning the business. You start learning the ins and outs of how that particular company runs. That's why you always hear me talk about, comparing EA Tiburon to EA Canada. You notice I don't just say EA Sports because it's all EA Sports. But that's why I compare Tiburon to EA Canada, because it just happens to be, how Tiburon does business. So really quick, man, quick backstory. I've heard about the possibility of the superstar mode, if you will, or some form of facet of superstar coming back to Madden. This has been, over 2 years ago. And my number one question was, how will it affect standard franchise? You guys have heard me say that. And the reason why that was my question is because I know for a fact that when there's a main focus in Madden, most of the resources are allocated there, and I'll say that loosely as far as saying no for a fact, because I don't necessarily know for a fact, but the evidence would show you that as well, as much as, the information I've gotten from the inside. Same thing happened when Longshot came in. That's where all of the focus was, all of the resources. All right. And this to me is an extension of Longshot. In my opinion, it's a more playable version of Longshot. I have not played it, no. But I can imagine, the way they do business at Tiburon, a lot of assets and resources went into this mode, to have it follow your story, etc., etc. So other things in franchise were not going to be addressed. The good part about it, though, is one thing that they did do that I've been asking for years is the fact that they seem to be building the game up together. All of the modes are basically coexisting now. Ultimate Team and franchise are finally sharing some assets, particularly with the abilities. And you're starting to see these things get built up together. That's what I've been asking for. I specifically said when Superstar returns, in which we know now is QB1, I wanted it to also affect standard franchise. Everything that's done there, I would like to see done in franchise mode. So for the most part, from what we're seeing, that is happening. But it's still yet to be determined. But anyway, let me get to the point, man, because I've held you guys too long without getting to my list. Number 1, roster management. And when I talk about roster management, I'm talking about full capabilities that replicate the NFL. Front loading, back loading, holdouts, guaranteed money structures, restructuring, etc., etc., etc. These things still do not exist in franchise mode to our knowledge. And the only sense of holdout that is in the game is from what we've heard is through the scenario engine, which none of us, or at least I didn't get a chance to see that in the beta. Number 2, extended staff. And I'm talking about having a coaching staff. Why this one is so important to me is because there is a form of offensive and defensive coordinator in this game, but it comes through the scenario engine once again, much like what you're seeing on the screen there. It's a text message where you're basically, answering a question or replying back to an OC or DC talking about an upcoming opponent. Okay, good start, but wouldn't be much better if you actually had those guys on staff and these guys actually ran your defense, ran your offense. Schemes were actually tied to them, and based on their suggestions, that would be your game plan. Then maybe you could take it over if you didn't like that. A lot of nutty things you could do in that space. Number 3, the recruiting system still is not robust. It's still not what we saw in NCAA. I mean, just the whole having to pitch a guy, having to woo him back to your team or woo a guy to your team if he's a free agent. A lot of different things need to be taken into consideration, different factors, weather, the playing time and the chances of a championship. All of these different things need to be a factor. I don't like the way the recruiting is now, and scouting for that matter, and even with free agency. I just don't like with free agency how you're able to see the bids and the highest number, the highest bidder gets. I mean, it's just it's not enough factors. And my idea has always been, I've always pitched the idea of allowing it to be what we see or what we saw in NCAA, having that type of system put into Madden where it would fit more of the NFL mode. Would be perfect. Wear and tear. That's number 4. Wear and tear. And this is no particular order, but a wear and tear element. Okay, all of these other games have it. Head Coach 09 had it. Probably was the first to have it, where it showed you a diagram of the body, and different areas of the body can be affected and be, more prone to injury or more wear and tear on that body throughout the year. More recently we see it in NBA 2K. Again, like I said, EA once had this model. We need to have something like that because the injury risk right now in franchise mode is what it's always been. Either it's the big decision, you're basically deciding if you're going to play the guy again. And if you play him, it's a high risk. It's never really a real risk reward. It's never a playthrough situation like the real NFL where it's a minor injury, but it's a risk of a tear. Situations like that. The Kevin Durant situation doesn't necessarily play out in Madden. We need to see that. So it needs to be a form of wear and tear, but not only just wear and tear, we also need to see more injuries that will allow you to make better decisions and take a risk. And guys should be able to play injured. I'm just saying, man. And the last thing, number 5, and this might be different from the list I did last year, but I definitely have to throw this one in here because I think this one is key to gameplay and franchise, especially since now they have the abilities and zone abilities that seems to include this. Homefield Advantage. What about having Homefield Advantage throughout the season? I mean, because like I said, both Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger that I saw in the beta, they have a trait or they have an ability that allows them to get in their zone faster when they're playing at home. For Ben, and then for Brees, it was when he plays indoors. There it is right there. That's your end to Homefield Advantage. NCAA had the composure factor. Well, you remember the squiggly lines when, your guys get rattled and they don't know what to do and the receiver couldn't hear the audible? Where is that? But this stuff is particularly important in franchise mode. When you got to go on the road, think about playoffs in those type of situations. And then, of course, there's a way more things you could do from that. I mean, then the weather should be a factor once you bring that in. It's so many different things. But I just wanted to make that quick list, guys. I mean, it's way more than just that. But again, I wanted to make that quick list because to me, those are the top 5 things that are still not in franchise mode that just keeps it from having the depth that most of us are looking for. That's all we're looking for, and that's all we want is depth. And that is the problem. Of course, you gotta tackle gameplay, and it seems like they have addressed gameplay, and we'll see when the final version comes out if everybody still feels the same. And once we realize and find out what other bugs or things might be associated, then we can really give an opinion. But come on, man. It's a gift and a curse because I understand why it's taking so long, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I have to be satisfied with the fact that it's taking long. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just the disappointing factor, the realization of it, and that's just how I feel about the situation. So definitely, guys, let me know what you think. Definitely leave your comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And again, this is my list. Okay, this is my list. Yours may be different. There's no right and wrong answer here. We all have our own opinions, because I already know that some of the comments you're gonna be crazy, saying, oh, those are stupid things. We got to do this first. We got to do that first. Guys, it's your opinion and I have mine. So this is just my list. All right, so once again, man, I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, cut on your notifications, hit that like button, and we'll catch you in the next video. Until next time, peace.